Crystal Palace. The Blues have been frustrated, they've been thwarted, and Crystal Palace's game plan has worked, I'm sure they will say. City have had great moments in the game. Rodri had a shot that was saved in the opening 3 or 4 minutes. Haaland put one over after a lovely move involving Ake and Bernardo Silva. There was a couple of other half chances. Grealish drilled one wide, and there was a couple of crosses that whipped across the face of the goal from Haaland, but it's just not quite happened yet for the Blues, who are on top, who are dominating. But at half-time at Selhurst Park, it is Crystal Palace 0, City 0. Let's go back to the studio and hear the views now of Natalie, who's with Nedum and Steve.
Welcome back to Matchday Live. That is 0-0 at half-time at Selhurst Park as City take on Palace. City, who have dominated the first 45 minutes, but not quite managed to carve out too many clear-cut chances. Steve, what do you make of the opening 45?
I think you're right, and I think what we've just heard there, I think City were dominant. Again, correct, not many gilt-edged chances, apart from, you would have to say one. Me and Nedum's had a conversation about the one for Erling Haaland. You know, it's a great little move. Silva puts it through the legs and Ake picks Haaland out. I'm just sort of saying, does he not kind of just relax a little bit too much? He just thinks he can feed it in rather than try and get over the top of it just to make sure he gets in. It happens to the best of forwards or midfield players or any player, really. So there was that one. There was the Jack Grealish one as well, just before that, when he does ever so well to come inside. And again, we just had the conversation. Does Jack not go for the far corner rather than trying to cut it across the goalkeeper? But really, I mean, Palace, and as far as Vieira's concerned, they'll be delighted with that, because basically what they're trying to do is frustrate City, which they have. They're leaving the footy in there a few times. We've seen Milivojevic, that would mention at the start of the game. And Palace will basically just want to see, can we get a set play? Can we get a ball into the box and just cause a little bit of chaos? So Pep will be sort of saying, listen, kind of keep it up, but we just need that extra little gear.
Is it what you were kind of expecting from the game so far?
Yeah, because City, you know, they dominate in most games that they do play, and I think for Palace, they're happy to be on the back foot. I think my only concern really is that, and as you could see Ruben Diaz when he was walking off the field there, trying to say keep going, keep going, keep going, because certain sides, you don't want to play to their strengths, and I think if you play a low-tempo game, that suits Palace a lot more than it suits City. I think a lot of the chances City have crafted have come from nice bits of play and a bit of injection of speed in there as well. So I think it's disappointing that they've not scored so far, but from the other side of it, defensively, they've looked pretty good overall. You know, the chances whereby, say, Palace have gone on the break, they've kind of dealt with those quite well, given away 1 or 2 sloppy set pieces as such. But overall, you know, the game's 90 minutes, so you don't have to panic at half-time, because they can still go out in the second half and go and seal the deal and then get the results that, you know, they feel they need going between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't feel worried at the minute. It reminds me of many games we've had where it just feels like it's a case of patience, keep going, chances will come. Biggest chance of that first half came from Erling Haaland. Not like him to miss like that, Steve.
No, I mean, I think it was just one of these chances where, as I said, it happens to the best. If he gets that ball across to him another 9 times, he scores 9 times. It was just one of them. It's just, as it took a little bit more of a higher bounce before he makes that connection. As I said, does he just not fully concentrate 100% on it? Because even the best have to fully concentrate, you know, and even when it's natural, you still have to concentrate 100% to make sure you get the technique right. But a chance definitely carved out. As we'd spoken, Nedum was absolutely spot on. His run is brilliant, because he makes that movement and then comes back to give himself that space. But it's a one that he'll be disappointed with. But like all top strikers, that's gone. Let's look at the next one.
Do you think perhaps Grealish, Foden providing to Haaland isn't working as well today?
Really, so I think he has that opportunity, and he's had 1 or 2 little scraps as well. I think he's put a couple of balls into the box. This is Haaland now, and I think he had a shot from the edge of the box as well. So he is occupied. And I think from out wide, you know, they're forming nice combinations with the full-backs. They're linking up with Gundogan's and Bernardo Silva's and the like. So I think that's always the final stage, the winger to the attack is the final piece. And when a team doesn't score, you'd say, well, maybe they've not done enough. But this is just the nature of football. You don't score every time you attack. You don't always have the best outcome every time you attack as well. So for me, there's no real drama with that. I think Grealish has very much been involved in the game, and Phil will start to get more and more involved as the half progressed as well, getting the better of Mitchell on that side. So ultimately, you know, we always know the flaws when somebody doesn't score. It's like the whole thing about Haaland. Everyone knows how many touches he has when he doesn't score, but they never know how many he has when he scored a goal. You know, so it's nothing to worry about. This is the nature of the Premier League. Even though you are a favourite and you're better than whichever side you're playing against, it's never going to be just a walk in the park. I think for City, the players, the manager, they know what's required, because it's fair to say over the last few years, they've done quite well at this part of the season. So even though it's 0-0 at half-time, I think they know the work that needs to go into making sure they don't concede and they go and get the goals that they need as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've been in this position so many times where it does just face. It's patience. It's going to come in the second half. In terms of chances for Palace, Steve, they've not had any on target. The best one came from, I don't know,
But it was a block though, you see?
It was.
You see, you tried it. We're not having this.
Okay.
Great block from Akanji.
Okay.
We're not having that from you anymore.
Okay.
We're not having that.
Great
bit of
block
defending,
by
great block.
Akanji.
Yes, exactly.
Which could give Edison another clean sheet.
There you go. You see, it's all connected now, eh? You see?
OK, Defenders Union. Is that the only one that you think of? Is there any other blocks that I've missed, I've failed to not recognise?
I think there was early doors. There was a ball in the box, and I think actually just talking about, I think you kind of going, but again, it's really just the defender heading the ball out.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
But that's what the Palace really, their game plan is, can we frustrate Man City and can we get a free kick and whip something in the box and put some bodies in the box, or get it in the box and maybe pick up a kind of a half chance. That's their plan. But as I said, it has been very good defensive blocks.
Yes.
So it's still, obviously, they'll know.
We love a defensive block on this show. Yes, we do. In our pre-match show, you both mentioned Milivojevic in terms of, I think it was it you, Steve, that said he does pick up cards. He got a yellow card in the first half, so you were spot on.
Well, just before he got the card, I think he came in with a not a great, like a scissors-y kind of a challenge. He's got that in him. He's nasty. I think he's got good ability. As I said, he has got his positives. But if I don't think Pep's this kind of manager. But if I'm one of the players, I'm sort of saying we need to get in and around him, because then he can maybe commit another foul and off he goes. I mean, ultimately, we want to try and make sure we do our own job. But you can wind him up. You can say different things. As I say, we've talked about the dark arts before. You've just got to frustrate him, and he will get frustrated the longer the game's gone on. Especially if City manage to get a goal, he'll start to lose the plot a little bit, because that's in his makeup.
You can imagine someone like Paul Dickoff would be in his ear for the entire next 45 minutes, trying to egg him on.
Yeah, that's Paul, isn't it? But he's like that with everyone, so ultimately...
Still like that now.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
still like that now. In terms of positives for City, Nedum, what's the sort of best thing from that half?
The fact that, you know, they're playing away from home and they still feel like they've got control of the game itself. I think Palace themselves, they're not the most sort of like dynamic of sides overall. And so, you know, they rely upon the ball players up top in Elise, in Zaha, in Ayew to take the ball forward, but they've not really been able to sort of affect the game in that positive manner for them. And City have doubled up pretty well to try and stunt some of that progress. And the fact now, I believe that Milivojevic is on a yellow card, that takes away like 10-15% of his game as well. I think when you think about players like Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne's on the bench, you can be very good at getting in the spaces just behind him. Before you know it, that you can be chasing them, he's got to put his hands up because he knows he can't afford to make another foul. So I think as far as the second half goes, City have the trump cards there on the field. They have the momentum. They just have to be clinical. And unfortunately, this is the thing we're going to say for the next 3 months straight, but they have to be clinical. But the belief is they can do it because they've scored, 66 goals already this season. So they're clearly not struggling from that standpoint.
That was positives for City. Anything that's worried you from that first half, Steve?
Not particularly, but at the same time, I have to be honest, it's a Premier League game. It takes a split second to concede a goal, and it takes a split second for one of their players to do something which you just go, wow, or a little bit of bad luck. So there's always a chance, but as long as they're concentrating, which they will be, they should be all right. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
And sorry to jump on that. I think it's a great point. And the way that football works itself is, you know, we can watch games and feel that we're neutral. You can feel one team deserves something and someone doesn't. But the fact is you deserve the 3 points if you score more than the opposition. So if they end up being clinical and taking something from the game, then it doesn't matter how they played throughout it because they did the thing that's the most important piece. But, you know, that's a concern. The fact it's still 0-0 and one goal could change everything. But the belief as it stands is unless City concede really late, the belief is that they're going to be scoring before that anyway. So there we go. Spin it back to positive.
Yes, we love a positive. Defensive block and a positive. We love that. Thank you for sending in your WhatsApp questions. We're going to try and get through some of them now. I really like this one. Alexis Jr. has sent this, and this would be a great question for anybody that's playing football. Alexis Jr. would like to know, how do you both deal with pressure as a footballer? Alexis feels that when they play, they don't play their best because of pressure.
For me personally, I think it's something which you learn to deal with over time when you sort of see the fact that this is a very, very big game and you really want to win. But some ways that pressure is like excitement as well, because you acknowledge the fact that it's a big game, it's important to you and you want to play well. I think you play well in one or two of those and you start to become excited because because there's a difference between playing in a game in a final and say playing maybe the 12th, 13th league game of a season or something. Like, they're both important, but it feels different. So that sense of nervousness, I think that's a strength because it makes you almost focused because you want to play well. You don't want to play badly and you want to win. And in time you learn how to play well, you learn how to win. And you know that it's exciting to have that feeling because a lot of people won't have that.
So it comes over time, you feel?
I think it comes over time. And relax, because at the end of the day, it's a game.
Yeah.
You should never forget that.
Any tips you can give Alexis Jr. for now, Steve?
Hey, well, for me, I think it is that. It does come over time, but I think for me, sometimes when you're nervous and the pressure's on, I think for me it was always sometimes looking around at my teammates and stuff like that, thinking, you know, collectively we've got this. You know, it is a pressure, but this is why you want to play football, for pressure moments. Yeah,
and to add to that as well, sorry, I forgot to say, like, if people feel pressure in things like cup finals and the like, you've done so well to even get to this point. So this moment itself is one which you've earned the right to be at. You're not an imposter, you're built for this moment. You've earned the right to be there, so try and enjoy the fact that you and the other team are the two best teams left in the competition. You know, so what is it to be nervous about? Because you've done so well to this point. See if you can do that again.
Thank you so much for the question. Right, Leon has said, do Nedum and Steve have a player they wish they could have played in the same team with, but never got the chance?
For me personally, I got the chance a tiny bit, but I wish I played with Aguero for 9 years. Because, you know, 260 goals later, you know, that's a nice spot to be in when you know Mr. Inevitable is going to do what he does. So it would have been nice to play with him for a few years, because I like the defensive side of things in midfield and so on and so forth. But I also love the idea of knowing the game's never over, because this little guy's on the field. So I think that'd be the one for me.
Love that.
I would go probably De Bruyne, like when he's completely on his game.
Yeah.
I mean, just what an absolute fantastic player. Just watching him dictate things the way that he does.
Of course, talking about De Bruyne, he's on the bench today. Do you think we might see some De Bruyne in the second half?
Again, it just depends on how the manager feels. Does he sort of say, right, lads, you've got 20 minutes, 25 minutes to see what we can do? If he feels as though it might need a freshen up, who does he then bring off? Does he then move the team around? Does he bring Mahrez or somebody like that on? So that'll be interesting to see. The thing is with Pep, you never know what he's going to do. So it'll be interesting to see if he does make changes, and if he does, who.
Cool. Lovely, thank you for that question, Leon. Winston said, what did your first goal for City feel like? And I guess that's to both. You must have scored, Steve?
Yes.
There we go. What did your first goal for City feel like, and how did it affect the rest of your match?
Mine was, I think it might have been the third game for Man City. We played Leeds away and we won 2-1. It was fortunate, but it doesn't make any difference if it's fortunate or I've hit it for 50 yards. It's still a goal, so I'll take that all day. Yeah. Did it affect the game? Yeah, we won the game, so that was the main thing.
My first one was against Spurs, I think 2007 under Sven-Göran Eriksson. Cross came in from Milano from a corner, headed it, and I'd not scored since I'd made my debut 3 years earlier. And in my mind, I thought I was never going to score a goal. In my mind, I'm thinking like Klaus Lunderfeld, remember him, like played hundreds of games, never scored. I thought that was going to be me. Then I scored, didn't know how to celebrate, and it was the goal to make it 2-1 for us. So it ended up, my first goal was essentially the winning goal, so that's not too bad.
Both scored winning goals for City. That's pretty decent, isn't it? Thank you so much for the question then. Thank you for joining us for Matchday Live. The team are coming out at Selhurst Park. Big 45 minutes of football ahead. Get your commentary with Michael Brown and Alistair Mann on the Manchester City app, and we'll be back at full time, hopefully talking about 3 points for City and closing that gap on Arsenal once again. Enjoy the second half.
Thank you, Natalie. Welcome back to Selhurst Park. Players are out. Pep Guardiola's making his way down the side of the pitch in still sleety rain.